It's Sunday. It's 8 o'clock, which means it's time for the Suns Jam Session podcast. Unless you're listening to this at a later time or watching this at a later time, then it's whatever time and whatever day that you're watching this. So welcome to the Suns Jam Session podcast. My name is John, and as always, I am joined by my podcasting partner, Mr. Matthew Lissy. Matthew Lissy, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. How you doing, John Voida?
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
You know, last day, feel great. Last day of July, the 31st of July. Truly in the dog days of summer. Not a lot going on. But you know what? That doesn't stop the Suns Jam Session from showing up every Sunday in the offseason at 8 p.m. live on our YouTube channel, on Facebook, and on Twitter for those of you who want to sit down, relax, and talk about some Phoenix Suns basketball and other goings-ons. So welcome, everybody, to the Suns Jam Session podcast. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're consuming this podcast. Matthew, why don't you tell them where they can go to do all those kind of things?
Oh, you can go to @SunsJam on Twitter. And that's about it.
Yeah, that's it. Outside
follow
of that,
follow us on Suns Jam and Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube and go ahead and hit the like button.
And I'll tell you this: if you go onto Apple Podcasts and you leave us a 5-star review, we'll read it right here on the podcast. And we actually have one, Matthew. We have a 5-star review.
One.
Yes,
oh
a
my
new
God,
one.
Thank you. It's
on Apple Podcasts. 5-star review from I Am Hayden Wells. And the title is Absolutely Fantastic Podcast. And Hayden said, I've been listening since the bubble and have been a Suns fan my whole life. Great to see the rise of this franchise and this podcast at the same time. You guys always entertain and even make miserable moments of the Suns great. Soon enough, we will have a jam session after a championship. Amen to that, Hayden Wells. So thank you for that 5-star review. And a reminder, please go to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. If you go to Google, you can just leave us a 5 stars. You don't have to write a review. But again, if you say anything on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it right here on the pod. And I have nothing funny to say. I was going to say like Chicken Little spaghetti noodle cheese fart. I don't know. You write that in
was fun. That was pretty funny, man.
We'll bring it on.
It's not that hard to make me laugh. So,
well, a couple gummies in, you never know. We are brought to you by No Gummy organizations either. So if you want to be a sponsor, contact our people. Our people will contact your people. And Andrew Jang in the chat says, I use Android. Go on to apple.com and find a way. Champions adjust.
There's always a way.
There's always
someone with an actual iPhone next to you, and you can just let them know, hey, go on and write this for me, and then we'll read it on the pod.
Yeah, you know somebody with an iPhone. Just have them do it. Just have them
exactly.
Do it.
Yes.
Even though it's July 31st, a lot to talk about on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. We'll be talking about some of the free agents that are still out there. Even if the Phoenix Suns are holding on and praying that they can get Kevin Durant, you still have to fill out that 15th spot on the roster. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Talk about some Suns news when it comes to Cam Johnson and some 2K. Go around the NBA a little bit. And then we'll button everything up with the Arizona Sports Mount Rushmore Phoenix Suns debate. A good friend of mine posed a question over the weekend. I thought it'd be a good topic of discussion right here on the podcast. So until then, Matthew, why don't you pop open? What do you got? An ice cold iced tea or something?
Oh, you know what I got is a water.
Oh, me too.
Filled up. Same kind of cup, right? But I got Baines.
You have Aaron Baines. I just have the Suns logo.
Baines, and I got DeAndre.
Yeah, I went and I had a couple beers last night, so I can't drink anything for the next 4 days. It's the laws of being in your 30s. So
it is.
Cheers, Suns fans. Let's talk about this amazing franchise. That I wanted to start as we begin this podcast, obviously, is to discuss the passing of Bill Russell. You know, here we are, 7/31/22, at the age of 88. The NBA and the sports world and humanity lost an amazing individual in Bill Russell. And it's interesting in these times of loss, a lot of people like to focus on that loss and the pain that incurs. And I like to think about what we've gained. And what we've gained in Bill Russell is not only somebody who is the greatest player in team sports history with 11 championships with the Boston Celtics, but also somebody who redefined the sport, somebody who was a civil justice champion, somebody who stood up for what he believed in, and to the point where he turned his back on the city of Boston for a prolonged period of time because he felt that what that city stood for was not necessarily what he stood for. He believed in his coaches, he believed in his teammates, he didn't necessarily believe in the city in which he brought all those championships to. He's somebody who, in the great sport of basketball, he's truly an icon. We could sit there, we could talk about where he is on all-time lists and things of that nature. But I don't think that today is the right time or place to do that. Just know that he is one of the all-time greatest basketball individuals that we've ever seen. And it sucks when you lose somebody like that today, right, Matthew?
Yeah, he was anytime he was around, like at a game, it was an important game, right? The right players he would go up and talk to. Book talked to him a lot of times. There's always him and Russell, pictures of them talking, and Book and even Kobe Bryant, all these players that idolize him would just listen, take any kind of information from this guy. But he was a guy where I didn't really know much about him until like maybe 13 years ago, until I read the Bill Simmons book of basketball, where he has a comparison between him and Will. Of course, I'm not going to get into that, but I just reading that, it was like, dude, this guy was a winner. I mean, 11 championships. That's what it's all about for him, and especially in life. So a big full life that he lived, right? 88 years old. So, I mean, it's a sad day, but he lived a great life, man. We'll always remember him for the good stuff.
Yeah, and I think that, it's interesting you say that. I remember back to, I don't remember the All-Star game in Major League Baseball, but when they brought out Ted Williams, and it was at Fenway Park, and like to see all the way that all the players responded to him, because he was a steward of the game, a historian of the game. And Bill Russell, I mean, that's exactly who he was. As you mentioned it, anytime he was at a game, everybody took notice and they wanted to just ask him a question and gain a story from him, because what he went through as a player, not only, as you mentioned, the way that he won and how he redefined the sport, but in a sport and in a city that didn't necessarily embrace who he was due to the color of his skin and the trials and tribulations that he had to face. A man of such character, people gravitated towards that. They wanted to know more about his life, his struggles, and how he truly and utterly was a champion in every sense of the word. So, yes, sad day, but it's a day to celebrate who and what he was. And, the game of basketball isn't what it is right now without Bill Russell.
No, and you hear EJ talk about it all the time, where these young athletes really have to look up to these older players and just really learn the game from them and go back and watch and, listen to stories, because it's all built upon these guys. And he was one of them for sure. And you could never learn enough about Bill Russell. There's a million things out there, and they're all pretty good. They're all excellent.
They are. So rest easy, Bill. Sad day for basketball overall. Changing gears, and I don't know how do you change gears out of that, but let's talk a little bit about the bracket of 64. So for those of you who haven't been following along at Suns Jam on Twitter, Matthew has done a stellar job putting together the 64 greatest moments of the 2021-2022 season, a season in which the Phoenix Suns won 64 total games. So tell us where we're at.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit last week. Tell us what moments you rolled out this week. Again, if you haven't been following along, Matthew's putting it out there on the YouTube channel, on our Twitter feed, and he's putting, it's a bracketology, right? So you're putting moments against moments. So tell us what moments kind of went against each other this past week, who won, and where we stand.
Yeah, we'll go through it. Do you want me to actually play the video first? So actually let the Jamsters see the video and the ones that won this weekend. We can do that, and then I'll announce to the people that are listening the head-to-head matchups and who won. But we're halfway through round one. Halfway through, man. What's the best thing? The best thing about this pod is we can do like whatever we want, whatever we like to do. Whether or not you want to look back to last season, it doesn't matter. We like to have fun on the pod and just do what we like. And that's the best thing about the pod. So let me play the actual bracket little video that I made. So here we go, right?
Fire it up.
Just all the ifs, and if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. My auntie had something between her legs. She'd be my uncle.
Good morning, Mr. Tyler. Going down.
Or yeah, listening to that, it's just like complete chaos. But a lot of it, like when you go back and watch, it's like kind of awesome. I don't know.
It's
You know,
nostalgic. No, I loved it, man.
I didn't want to do it, but they left off with 64. There's the only thing to do with 64 is to make a bracket out of it. So that's what we did. And yeah, so to go through the actual matchups for those listening, the CP3 perfect game. Of course, this is a number 1 seed that's in the Ayton bracket that defeated the Booker big shot that happened like literally the same game, the last moments of the game that there was a closeout game 6 of round 1 against the Pelicans. So that won 80%. Obviously that's probably going to move on to the finals. The next matchup.
Sorry, real quick. I mean, that perfect game, that perfect game was, it's one of those things that I think will get lost in what happened this past season is because we didn't accomplish the ultimate goal in the playoffs, but what Chris Paul did in the playoffs and putting together that unbelievable performance, it's something that we have to remember. We have to remember how great that game was.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are good. And of course, if we were to win it all, that's the number 1 moment. So we didn't win it, so choose the moment that kind of makes up for the shitty end of the season. So in the CP3 bracket, we had Bismack donates his salary to build a hospital in the Congo. That's going to be a hard one to beat. I feel like that's going to be probably the winner because it's kind of some people actually voted against it. He won, or that one actually won the number 2 seed, 94%. So there were some of you out there that voted for the beach, and that was just a number 16 or number 15. So I had to throw that one out there. But yeah, a few of you actually voted for the beach over Bismack donating his salary. So
yeah, that's a tough one because again, it's like that one transcends basketball, right? Like we just did this whole dissertation on Bill Russell, a man who transcended basketball. Like Bismack did that by donating his whole salary. So it'll be interesting to see as the bracket progresses, like if the matchup is just right, like what could dethrone that? Because that's playing on a whole different like emotional standpoint. So we'll see. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, and when creating this, Bismack's actually probably the best product out there. I feel like he's just
everybody loves Busy, man.
He has a lot of good moments from last year. From the book bracket, the number 2 seed, Booker versus the Raptor, which is a good one. 83% against JJ and CP3 talking about the rip through on the JJ Redick podcast. After that one, we had the Ayton gets 21 points, 21 rebounds. It's a number 9 seed, won 62% against Mikal Bridges steal and dunk in the round 1 against the Pelicans.
So why do you think that one was so close? Do you think that there's just so much Ayton haters out there that like they can't even get him credit for a 21-21 game?
I don't know. You know what? When it came down to a lot of these moments, it's just like they're just random things that were actually kind of awesome. Like I just went through, Ayton's high score, high rebounds. Mikal Bridges coming up had 7 steals in a game, so that would be a moment. So it's just these ones, the number 9 and 8 seeds, are kind of hard to choose from, just like in a regular bracket, like the NCAA.
But that'll be interesting because you said there's a moment with Mikal Bridges with a 7 steal game, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll be interested to see how that performs against whatever moment because this is a topic that we'll definitely delve into more as the season comes. Is how Ayton can do no wrong or do no right, whereas Mikal can do no wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like Mikal, if in this bracketology that you've put together, the bracket of 64 on the 64 win season for the Phoenix Suns, if Mikal Bridges wins that by like 90-10, it'll just fortify that aspect. It's like Mikal Bridges can do no wrong. DeAndre Ayton can go out and go for 21 and 21 and still only get like 62% of the vote for that performance. Like that is a dominating performance. Like that should crush almost anything because we finally get what we want from him. And people are like, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it.
But everyone loves Mikal too. So that's what's so awesome about the squad. And we're going to talk about free agents. We'll talk about Bane later on. Like anyone that's in this organization is loved and they're always remembered. DA is the only one that stands out as the one guy. That's an exception. And I've been that guy too. So yeah, I voted for Ayton on that one though.
I did as well.
Well, the next one up is the book bracket again. Shamet, the dunk. He had this huge dunk against the Pelicans, came out of nowhere on Jackson Hayes. That actually lost to the pregame ritual, which where's my motherfucking dogs? That thing, 70%. That one moved on. Booker, of course, giving his jersey to Al McCoy. That was 98% over the Shamet season. That was just talked about endlessly. He had 2 good games this year. That was always a moment on the pod where we just can never get with what Shamet was throwing down. right? Last season.
Oh, yeah. Well, and again, to go against that moment, was that a number 1 seed?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's the Shamet season was unbelievably disappointing, and I think you properly put it in the correct seating because it should be crushed. Like that season should be forgotten, and it should go against an amazing moment like winning the 63rd game and having Devin Booker give his jersey to Al McCoy. So I think that good job, Jamsters, by voting that one correctly. 98%.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet the 2% of you who voted against
There's
that.
always
Maybe
a turd out there, dude.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
always
It
a
was like
turd
Landry
that-
Shamet's mom or something, you know, like
Maybe.
she put his vote in. And, you know,
or maybe it's just Shamit, man. And you know what? I'm not dogging Sham. I didn't want to put a video of him of like or a sad picture of him because I mean he's gonna be a son next year. So
yeah.
you know what? Maybe he'll
need
turn
him.
it around next year, right? This is about last year though. So Al McCoy bracket sticking in that bracket. Booker 2K cover wins 65% over Monty ripping the refs after a game. I think it was a game 4 loss to the Pelicans where they just the free throw defense
after all the
difference
fouls
was just it was crazy. So that was a good moment. We talked about that on the pod. And then after that, the CP3 bracket, you had the ifs were fists from Booker.
We'd all be drunk.
Yep, that was 89% winning over exchanging of blocks where Mikal Bridges blocked Jackson Hayes and then Jackson Hayes blocked Mikal.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a half and half, you know, because Jackson Hayes highlighted in it, but it was one of those moments like I'd never seen that before. So that was kind of cool. But that did lose pretty badly. And then the last
ifs
one,
were fifths is like such a great line though. It's such a great line.
Yeah, exactly. And that was like when Book was on a roll. Like he had the good games and he was talking to the media a lot. He was being an ass on the court. Like
it was like the Raptor happened, and then like two days or 2 weeks later was that whole Anthony Davis, you know, like, well, you know, if I was healthy, we would have won. He's like, yeah, if we're fifths, we'd all be drunk. And he's wearing like the glasses. He looks like a G when he does it. Yeah, he had a good run with the media there.
Yeah, then so last one actually is the Aiden bracket. Bismack ain't no bitch because DeMarcus Cousins tried to throw the ball at him, acted like he was going to, and Bismack just did not flinch at all. Just went straight up like, what are you doing? And then the Kaminsky game, 31 points before he got hurt. I think it was a couple games before he got hurt, but that one did lose 65%. To the Bismack.
That Kaminsky game, man. I was in Palm Desert when that happened. I remember that. I was just like, holy effing shit.
Yeah, and one of the Jamsters actually pointed out to me, they're like, the Kaminsky game's not on there. I'm like, yeah, thank you. And there were 3 matchups that were changed because some Jamsters reached out like, hey, this isn't on there. So I swapped out some ones that I thought shouldn't even be on there and put theirs in there. So
perfect.
Thanks, Jamsters. So that's the wrap up of week 2.
All right, week 2. Well, week 3 starts, tomorrow morning. We'll be posting it on @SunsJam on Twitter. So check it out. You can see the moments there. You can see them right here on YouTube as well. And make sure that you vote because, this is the tough part because there's so many moments. But it's going to get really, really, really fun once we start to get down to that like Elite 8. And we have some great moments.
Yeah, exactly.
So going to look forward to that. Good. Thank you again for that, Mr. Matthew Lissy. All right. Next up, available free agents. So wrote a piece for Bright Side of the Sun today about some of the available free agents that are still out there on the market. And we're kind of at that interesting stage of the season again, in which I mentioned that we're in purgatory, right? We're in that about 1 month period where the news cycle is really slowed down. The Phoenix Suns have done a really good job of staying in said news cycle in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. But as I've mentioned a couple times on the pod here before, we are handicapped because we are just sitting around kind of waiting on what's going to happen with Kevin Durant. If anything, it actually indeed does happen. It really doesn't sound like the Suns can put forth a package that is satisfactory to the Brooklyn Nets, which is understandable. This is a 12-time All-Star and a top 15 of all-time NBA player. Like you'd have to trade pretty much the franchise and the gorilla just to get him over here. So that being said, the Phoenix Suns are down one person on their roster right now. They've got, from a starting standpoint, they've got Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, DeAndre Ayton. Same shit they've been running out there for now the 3rd season, which I absolutely love. Consistency is something that is rare in the NBA, and it's actually something that will benefit you as the season progresses. From a backup standpoint, Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet, Torrey Craig, Cam Johnson, Bismack Biyombo. And then the backup to the backup, they've got Damian Lee, Josh Okogie, Dario Saric, and Jock Landale. So they have one less player than the roster provides. You get 15 players on the roster. So looking at it through the lens of no Kevin Durant, right? Because if Kevin Durant comes to Phoenix, about 4 of those names will probably be moved. We don't know which 4. We have an idea which 4 it would be, but we don't know which 4. But right now, as we look to fill out the roster, the thing that we have to keep in mind is the fact that the Phoenix Suns are currently at $167.2 million in total salaries, which is the 6th highest in the NBA. That puts them into the luxury tax. And the luxury taxes here is $150.3 million. So essentially, if they were to sign any new free agents, anybody to fill out the roster, if you will, they have to, as a part of the luxury tax, they have to pay $3.25 for every dollar over the cap because of the zone they're in. You go over 20 million, it's a different zone. But right now, so let's say if they sign somebody for or $1.75 million, they would end up having to pay $5.69 million towards the cap. Makes sense?
It does. Yeah. And I read your article, so I was like, what? I started to reread it a few times, and I got it down. It makes sense, John.
Okay. I hope it makes sense. And it probably none of it makes sense because there's probably some mid-level exception bullshit out there that I'm missing or something.
Yeah.
Well,
it makes me cringe, honestly. It kind of just makes me cringe because of the money they're going to be spending. I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Because I'm kind of a tightwad a little bit.
Hey, it ain't
so
my
I'm just
money.
Like, oh, exactly. But I always feel bad for other people. I don't know why. And it's Sarver. Why should I feel bad? So never mind. Continue.
Yes, you shouldn't feel bad. So, I guess the first question I got for you, Matthew, is when you look at some of the available free agents out there, like where do you feel the greatest need exists for the Phoenix Suns in their roster right now?
Well, first, I actually did think about what was said here by 34 out. We need a backup point guard bad. It's just, Payne. He's going to be there. So then I'm thinking of other things, just like veterans too. And this is one that was brought up a while ago. Carmelo Anthony, Frank Brown brought that up just now, but I also heard about it before. And I was thinking, I'm like, kind of cool to have a guy in here that I enjoyed watching him, but I've never been a big fan. I feel like if he was here in Phoenix, he already knows his role, right? It's just the backup guy, not a lot of pressure. I feel like he's kind of going to go towards the next step where in his career where there shouldn't be any pressure on him to score points or do anything to win a game. And that would be a perfect position here in Phoenix for him because he can just be that guy to come in to have fun. He'd be on the bench joking around. But then when he comes in, we're going to always have those cushion leads when KD's here, right? He can play here with Chris Paul, the banana boat thing. Of course, everyone's throwing
I'm saying though, imagine no KD.
Okay, yeah.
KD ain't coming. KD
well, you know what? Well, the banana boat's there anyways with Chris Paul.
This is true.
Then LeBron's always the other option too. That was always floated out with the whole KD thing. So yeah, no KD. I'm for sure going to say like a Carmelo Anthony would be cool. And it's not like I said, it's not like we have to put a lot on his shoulders. He would just be a fun name to be here. And I think he really knows what to do and like when to come in and actually help this team out offensively. Can't do a lick defensively, but you're going to get those Carmelo Anthony games where he just come in. He might get 30 points, maybe one night, something like that. And it'd be nice to have a shooter like that. And also a veteran presence for the wings we do have. You know what I mean? Not that I feel like they need kind of the leadership because I think Chris Paul and Booker are those guys. But it doesn't hurt to have that extra guy like a Carmelo Anthony to be a leader in the locker room.
So again, I ask, what position do you feel like we need to fill?
Power forward.
Yeah,
for sure.
And a lot of people agree with you there, because you look at our power forward depth, and again, I'll state it again. It's Jay Crowder to start, Cam Johnson, and then kind of Dario Saric. Like, if he's healthy, we'll see. It's not necessarily a role that he's fulfilled as the power forward. He's been more of kind of like a backup center. So yeah, I think that there's a couple roles. And when you say Carmelo Anthony, I think that's a role that needs to be filled. Not necessarily a position role, but a role of somebody who has the ability to come in off the bench and provide offensive firepower. What the hell is going on around you, man?
There's a huge roach like right there. I'm not even joking. I gotta like log off. I'm not gonna log off. I'm just gonna mute, exit my screen, grab a shoe, and swat it, and I'll be right back on.
All right, perfect.
I gotta take care of this, dude. Okay, I'm not even joking.
For those of you who are listening, like Matthew's looking around like a crackhead, and I'll tell you this: he's terrified of bugs. Like everyone in the Lissy family is like terrified of bugs. So I was watching him as I was trying to make a point about Carmelo Anthony, and he was looking around like the monsoon, like his roof was about to fall in or something. So I'm glad I asked that question. So he's going to go kill that roach. Apparently, I just see him swatting things in the background. So, as Westville says in the chat, he says, "Get Lissy, get some raid, man. Is the
No, I
roach
just
gone,
squashed it.
Matthew?"
Yeah, it's gone, man. It was like creeping down the side of the wall, like looking at me. Like I was like,
It
and
wanted
it
to be
wasn't
on the
that big.
pod.
It wasn't even that big, but I didn't want it crawling on me.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm good.
All right. Alex Kroll
All
says,
right.
"Get that roach, Lissy." So, mission accomplished. So again, I think that Carmelo Anthony he fulfills a role. He's somebody who can bring offensive. You mentioned it, like can't play a lick of defense, but it's clear that James Jones is thinking defensively with his reserves when he makes the acquisitions for Damian Lee and Josh Okogie. Right? Like Josh Okogie, I wrote a piece earlier this week about him for Brightside, and I pretty much said that he is Elfrid Payton with high energy because he can't shoot a lick, but he's got high energy, and that's how he stays in the NBA. Is he's one of those guys who, from a fan standpoint, like we will love Josh Okogie because of the energy he brings, and every time he shoots, we'll be pissed off because he can't hit shit. He's like a 27% 3-point shooter for his entire career. So somebody like Carmelo Anthony, who is out there, who is a free agent, is something that I'm not necessarily opposed to. So what I did for Brightside is I put together like 3 different tiers. And the first one is the go get him tier. And again, this is operating on the premise that where we currently are at, that we do not have Kevin Durant on this team. And we need to fill that 15th spot. So the first guy, it's not shocking to hear me say it, but I said Montrezl Harrell because I love Montrezl Harrell. And I agree with you. I think that power forward is a position that we could use some oomph in. Trez, he 28 years old, 13.1 points and 6.1 rebounds in his 23.1 minutes off the bench last season for both the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets. The big issue he's facing right now is he has felony drug charges in the state of Kentucky because he was stopped with 3 pounds of vacuum sealed marijuana. So there's that. It's like between him and Miles Bridges, right? 2 guys who played for the Hornets. We're both ready to kind of cash in, get a payday. This is a guy who's like a 2-time 6th man of the year. Miles Bridges was getting ready to sign a huge contract. Miles Bridges goes and starts beating the shit out of everyone in his family, and Trez gets pulled over with a bunch of weed. It's like really bad luck for both of them. One truly made his own luck and should deal with those consequences. The other one, it's like, dude, it's weed. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not the judge, jury, or executioner, but like, come on, man. So are you shocked that I would bring up Montrezl Harrell in this conversation?
No, not at all. I think a lot of these names that we're going to go over, especially him, these are ones that we wanted before, but now it's just like they're fillers, right? They're coming in and they're filling with energy. That's what he has, dude. And the whole bag, who cares? Marijuana. Like, really? Just leave him alone. Cops, like, why do they fucking care, dude? He's driving his own car. He's not doing anything wrong. Maybe I didn't look into the story, but
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I don't care.
but imagine Montrezl Harrell and Josh Okogie coming off the bench. Like, you want to talk about 2 high energy guys who bring intensity from a defensive standpoint? Like, that would be amazing. That's something we didn't really have last year. You missed that in Javon Carter, and Javon Carter didn't have a huge impact on this team 2 years ago. But when he came in, you felt a shift in defensive intensity.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you did not feel that this past year. JaVale McGee brought some defense, but it was more of like goofy defense, right? Like he's just like,
JaVale McGee was awesome, but he also got to the point where I feel like he did too much. He looked so tired. I kind of felt bad for him on the court. Montrezl Harrell, you won't get there, right? He's Energizer Bunny out there. He seriously does not lose any energy, but he is a backup role guy, which is perfect because if he comes in and brings that energy, like you said, we haven't had that in a while. We've kind of just had like the stand-up dudes, standing out on the 3-point line.
Yes.
Cameron Johnson's just like,
Torrey Craig.
Torrey Craig. It's just these aren't really physical guys, and that's one thing that the Suns really weren't last year. Is physical, right? I mean, Ayton's our center. It's just you have Devin Booker, who is a slasher, but they're not physical. They're not drawing contact. So I feel like we need that contact, and he would definitely bring that. And I've always loved the dude. It's not like I want to go out and spend a lot of money on him, right? Like before, when I wanted to offer him like 15 to 16 mil a year or something like that, which is nuts. This is a guy that's not going to be making that much. And plus, he can bring that energy that the Suns desperately need next year, because next year is going to be a lot. I mean, well, of course, KD's not coming that we're talking about right now, but there's always going to be that target on the Suns' back now because of how much shit we talked last year and we ended up losing in Game 7. Now we have to have the extra fight in us, and he brings that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we are a team that other teams will get up for, and we will be a measuring stick. And I agree with you. Physicality. Montrezl Harrell's his high motor guy. He's everything Hassan Whiteside isn't. And maybe we can get him on the drug dealer discount right now. He's not getting a lot of offers from everybody everywhere. So bring him in for a year, give him a $1.75 million contract if that's how contracts work, and you can do that. It's 5.7 to the cap, and call it a day. Use it. I think so. He was the first guy I brought up, and then obviously a lot of people, as you mentioned, are talking about the backup point guard position. And Cameron Payne, as much as we want him to be, it really came back down to earth last season. The energy, the effectiveness, it wasn't there last year. And I think we're very surprised how effective he was in his first season and a half with the Phoenix Suns because of the level of difficulty of his shots. We would, in our post-game podcast, be amazed by. We're like, wow, it's almost like Leandro Barbosa, like the angles that he's taking. And it's like, it seems like there's no way it's going to go in. And then it goes in. And like last season, they stopped going in. And then he started forcing it too much. And there was no consistency to his game. So although he's currently listed as the backup point guard and they're paying him a pretty penny to do so, I still think there's an area of opportunity relative to the backup point guard position. So, I mentioned in my go get him category, Montrezl Harrell, power forward. The other guy I could see them going for, and this is not a great locker room guy in theory, but that's Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder is the guy who just a season ago took a chance on himself, right? And he was reportedly offered a 4-year, $84 million contract extension with the Los Angeles Lakers. He turned it down. He opted to bet on himself and get a larger contract elsewhere. That never came. So he signed with the Boston Celtics for 1 year and $5.9 million. And after 49 games in Boston, the team was 31-25 with him as a member of the team. And they traded him. They went 16-6 to finish the season. They ended up in the NBA Finals. He ended up in Houston playing, just for a team that played absolutely no defense. And now he's a free agent, and he's 29 years old, 9 years of NBA experience. And you got to remember, his best season was the season he spent with Chris Paul, coming off the bench with Chris Paul. So I think that if in true The Rock fashion, he knew his role, jabroni, and fell into that role as a backup point guard, or start off the season as the backup to the backup, and then create a competition with Cameron Payne and maybe push Cameron Payne, because Cameron Payne wasn't being pushed by Elfrid Payton last year, right? Nobody. Elfrid Payton ain't pushing anybody. So there was no competition. So you weren't necessarily getting the best version of Cameron Payne because he didn't have to fight for it anymore. He got his paycheck. Well, you bring in somebody like Dennis Schroeder, somebody who can distribute, somebody who can play defense, somebody who knows how to play the NBA game. I think that'd be a great addition for the Phoenix Suns.
It would. The one thing you did bring up earlier was the locker room thing. So I don't know if he fits the kind of Monty James Jones kind of guy, but also Monty James Jones, they do reach out to players, have them come in like a Cameron Payne who wasn't doing very well, right? I mean, Schroeder's doing well, but obviously him betting on himself, not getting the contract that he really wanted to get. Maybe they can turn stuff around for him, like help him in a way. Like, hey, this is the thing that people are seeing. This is what you need to change. And here's a path to win here in Phoenix and then get that contract. You know what I mean? So they can do that. That would be a great story, of course. And it would be someone to push Cameron Payne. But the thing is, Cameron Payne, too, I don't think he needs someone to push him. He's just, whatever happened to him in the playoffs, who knows? Just like the rest of the Suns team. Who knows what the fuck happened? But the Schroeder thing, pushing him, I guess that can be something. But I just think that with Schroeder's game, it's too good almost to be a backup, right? I think he is like a starting caliber player. He can be, but there's something mentally there. There's something that he just lacks. He lacks, not everyone can be Chris Paul, but he lacks like that leadership that I think you need from a point guard. So maybe if he did come in here, he can learn some things and then get that contract going into next year. And that would be a great story because Monty and James Jones have done this before. They've done this with all these players. That's why it's like a kind of like a risk taking this guy in, because you might not get the guy you want, but he can turn into something very, very special, especially in playoff time, and especially in a time where you want to give CP3 as many minutes as he can on the bench for good rest and some good minutes out of him to make sure the lead is staying safe and also just, hanging in there with other teams.
But that's the beauty of the situation right now is we're talking about the 15th guy on the roster, right? So it's very low risk, high reward. And I feel like Dennis Schroeder could truly be a low risk, high reward kind of player. because he, like you said, like he could be a starting caliber player in the NBA. There's obviously something going on. There's a reason he's still a free agent, right? Because if he was a starting caliber point guard in the NBA, he'd already been done signed up by now, but he hasn't been. So there's other factors that are not available to us at this time that are avoiding or negating his ability to be even signed by a team. But this is a great situation for him. It's a great incubator, as you mentioned. The Phoenix Suns organization is a great incubator. And knowing that he's played well with Chris Paul, he responds well to Chris Paul, and he has respect for Chris Paul and has been productive in playing with Chris Paul. That is something that James Jones, the Phoenix Suns, need to take in consideration. Now, that being said, Chris Paul could be like, yo, fuck that guy. And that's why they haven't signed him yet, right? Or they're just sitting there just waiting to see how, again, we're being held hostage on the whole KD thing, so they're not necessarily making any moves until they know exactly what their roster is going to look like. But as we get closer and closer to the season, you have to make those decisions. I think Dennis Schroeder, if I got news, and this might sound weird, if I got news that Dennis Schroeder was a member of the Phoenix Suns, I would be almost as happy as I would if Kevin Durant came. And I know it's a weird statement to make, but again, I've made the statement before, like as much as I love Kevin Durant, and I would love to see Kevin Durant as a member of the Phoenix Suns, I think the Suns would have to give up so much that it would decimate this team. And although we'd have this great Hall of Fame player on our team, I don't think it would equate to winning. I think it would shatter our depth. It would shatter our consistency. And it would, and again, I've been proven wrong on this before because I kind of said the same thing about Chris Paul, that the Phoenix Suns were heading in an upward trajectory. And I didn't think that Chris Paul necessarily was going to be the
You
piece
might have
to
been right
change
there
that.
too.
Well,
So,
we ended up in the NBA Finals the next season. So
that's
I mean,
true, but we didn't win anything yet. So
true. But I thought I was like, Ricky, so I don't know. So hearing that you bring in somebody like Trez or somebody like Dennis Schroeder, that's why I put them in like the go get him category. Because those are two guys I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Those are perfect guys to add to this team. The other guy I added in that category was Ish Wainwright, just because like if we're going to fill it with anybody, Ish Wainwright is a guy who I would like to see back on this team.
Yeah, and I need to actually I need to cut that into a short this week of you saying I'd be just as happy getting Dennis Schroeder. We get a lot of watches from that, dude. And honestly,
I'll get ratioed and destroyed on Twitter, man. That's like this theme of this summer for me. It's
we're
like
not
anytime
giving
I
up
say anything, everybody just is like, "You're a fucking idiot." Like I just have
as long as it gets us subscribers. No, but we're not giving up anything for KD. So I think when it happens, I'm not worried about. I think we're gonna keep everybody we love here. So
all right, we'll see.
It's gonna happen, man.
All right, you keep the faith there, brother. You keep.
Can you tell that half my mustache is shaved? Because like it, my thing, I was shaving before, and my thing died. It died like when I got to the other half. So it's not the lighting. It's just like this is a little bit shaved, and then. Anyways, I keep it.
Well, when you work at home now, like you do, it doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't. But then tomorrow, like, hey, can you actually share your screen tomorrow, or else can you present yourself? Like, oh,
and you're maybe. Like, no,
I didn't charge it. All right.
No, it's just when you work from home, there's one thing that you need to know, and it's that
it doesn't matter.
So,
what you look like, yeah.
It doesn't matter what you look like. The next tier I have is the I wouldn't mind tier. And these are certain players who I think could fit in Phoenix depending on their skill set and what they could bring to the bench. Again, we're not looking for expected all-stars in free agency. We're just looking for guys who can fill in should injury strike. And here's a couple players that I wouldn't mind seeing as a member of the Phoenix Suns. And as I was looking through the list of free agents, one was fuck you, Campazzo. He annoys you. He annoys me. And you know what? He could annoy the opposition for both of us, and I think we'd enjoy the heck out of it. So free agent, played a couple seasons in Denver. He's now currently a free agent. He's only 5'10", but he's got the heart of a lion, and we experienced that when we swept his ass in the playoffs a couple years ago. But you look at his experience, he's a two-time EuroLeague champion. He's a three-time Spanish League champion. He's a four-time Argentine League champion. So he has a championship pedigree. He's somebody who, again, in the spot of Aaron Holiday, you bring in fuck you, Campazzo. Thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. I don't think we have the annoyance like a Campazzo on our team. I think when we did the subreddit stakeout, we did find out, of course, everyone hates Jay Crowder. Everyone hates Devin Booker. But we don't have like the annoying guy, a guy that actually gets under your skin to where as soon as he steps on the court, it's like, this guy fucking sucks, right? Maybe Jay Crowder's that way.
Yeah,
but
Jay Crowder's like,
defensively,
they had like fuck Jay Crowder shirts last year.
they did, yeah, I know. But I mean, I feel like defensively though, he's okay, but I feel like he was never pesky till maybe after the play was dead, right? He wasn't annoying to watch to where this guy can get into the nooks and crannies in your belly and just really make you upset, right? He can just upset you as a player and as a fan. So it'd be different to have a guy like that on our team, because I don't feel like we've ever had like that guy in a while. I don't remember like the last guy that's like him that was just an annoyance, like just pesky annoyance. Because Jay Crowder, he's annoying, he's hated, but not in the same way I feel like Campazzo would be.
Yeah, the opposition would absolutely hate him. I mean, that's for sure, because we hated him. So no, I agree with you there, and that's why I put him on the list. The other guy of the I wouldn't mind tier was Carmelo Anthony. You know, I think that he would fulfill a role. The old guy can still score, so I know he's going to be 38. But if the contract is right, why not? So I think we already talked about Melo. Anything else you want to add on Carmelo Anthony?
No, I mean, it'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting. And I really like what who wrote that? William Ye says in the chat, because depth doesn't win championships, superstars do. Man, you're right.
You need that. You know what?
I'm retracting my previous statement. I want KD.
Yeah, I know. And that's why Draymond just released that the quote, I think it was a couple weeks ago, when he said that when they lost to LeBron in game 7, like he was the next hour, he was in his car trying to get a hold of KD because he needed that one guy that can handle the ball, get his own shot, because Steph was not that guy yet. So that's exactly what the Suns need. I think they have Booker, but Booker always is just, he's limited in a way where he gets hurt, right? If he gets hurt with his hamstrings, he is so limited. And I know KD has his health issues, but he's just so dominant where the ball's in his hand, like you're shitting yourself on the other side. Like the Suns will win those close games with KD on our team for sure.
Well, we have like the perfect amount of, like, we have all the tools that you need to be successful, right? Like you have a great center who has defensive versatility, and he can score and probably needs to be involved more in the offense. You have a defensive stalwart in Mikal Bridges. You have a Hall of Fame point guard. And what makes the Suns so effective and what made them so deadly in the regular season last year is you didn't know how they were going to attack you because they had two amazing guards. But you don't have that, like you said, that other guy who, like, from a scoring standpoint, like Chris Paul could be that guy, and he was that guy a lot of times in the last 5 minutes of games. But if you have him just become a pure distributor and you have like a KD and a Devin Booker, like, Jesus, like, how do you beat that? You can't beat that in the last 5
No,
minutes.
you don't. They'd be a hated team right away. Because I don't think anybody could say, hey, they're cheating their way to a championship at all. It's just like,
no, we've
like,
gone through the necessary steps. We've gone through the pain.
We have. We definitely have, man. So I'm excited for KD. Is this what the pod's about?
Kevin let's go into my next tier, the please don't tier. These are some guys that carry recognizable names, kind of like Carmelo Anthony, but have no place on the Phoenix Suns roster. Dwight Howard. No. LaMarcus Aldridge. Don't want him anymore just because he burned me back in like 2014 or 15. Hassan Whiteside, Andre Iguodala, and your boy Blake Griffin. Are there any one of those guys you think that the Suns should?
You know what? If Blake's the 15th man, I'm happy with that. I think Blake.
I hate
he
his
was
face.
Pretty. I know you do, but he was pretty good in that series for the Brooklyn Nets when they lost in round 1. It was
that was
he
really
was pretty
cool.
decent. He was pretty decent for a 15th guy. I wouldn't be bad.
Yeah. No. Him and the whole Kendall situation, man, it'll never work.
No, that doesn't matter, dude. They all sleep with everybody. Like they're all with everybody, in and out of everybody. So it doesn't matter.
In and out.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, fair enough. And then the last group of players, the no fucking way players: Elfrid Payton, Greg Monroe, Markieff Morris, Josh Jackson, or Eric Bledsoe. We've already seen these people in purple and orange. No need to see them again, right?
Yes, I agree 100% with you on that one.
Okay,
definitely.
So fair enough. Okay, so there you go. Some free agent targets who are still out there. They're still out there, and whatever, still out there. All right, Suns news. Let's see what's going on. Matthew, you had something on Cameron Johnson, I believe.
Yeah, so I guess Cameron Johnson's doing like a 3-on-3 tournament, some kind of charity that's going on. I didn't even know about it till today, but he was talking about, he hears the rumors about the trades and that might happen with KD. He knows it's part of the business and he loves it here. And all these players do, right? All the players know what's going on. And I love how open he is and just telling us, like, yeah, I know what's going on. And if it happens, it happens. I love being here, but it's part of the business. You don't hear that a lot, right? Especially from younger players, even though he's 26, you don't hear it a whole lot from NBA players where they do accept the fact it's a business before they might get traded. They love the fact that they're playing in the NBA. That's the way Cameron Johnson seems like he's handling it, which is good. So thoughts on that though. Like I think that a lot of the times when we talk about trades and stuff, especially me, I kind of feel bad because I love a player, but to know that Cameron Johnson is like, okay, if he's traded, but he still loves it, it's just a different kind of feeling I feel like from him.
Well, I mean, you have to equate it like this. Like if you're making a certain amount of money and then they go, okay, listen, Matthew, I need you to do that same job, but you're going to go do it in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, okay, I mean, that sucks. Like, I'd like to stay here at home. I love it here. I've got friends here. I've got family here. But you know what? Like, if this is what I got to do to be successful in my career, this is what I'm going to do. And that's part of playing in the NBA. And, again, I think the comments that Cameron Johnson made just continue to show how polished players are now in this modern NBA. Whereas 20 years ago, there'd be an emotional I mean, look at DeMarcus Cousins even 10 years ago. This guy was just a firecracker. And I know I'm probably using the wrong example because he was so on the extreme side of it all, but it was less about the business and more about the personal player and their feelings, and they allow him to get hurt. And, when you play for a team like the Phoenix Suns and you've defied a lot of the initial national pundits' thoughts on your draft status, and you got Kobe White going like, wow, and then like Cameron Johnson's way better than him. It's just, I think you're happy just to kind of continue to prove the haters wrong. And if you got to go do it somewhere else, he knows that if he goes anywhere else, his role will be expanded and he'll have even more opportunity to play and get a bigger bag. So, again, the level of maturity from this team and from the players on this team continues to be another thing that, displays the culture and showcases that general managers like James Jones have had the proper communication with their players, right? Like Eric Bledsoe wouldn't have been saying something like that because Ryan McDonough wasn't talking to him about that kind of stuff. It was more like backdoor, like, hey, man, I think we should trade Eric Bledsoe. And then he hears about it, and he's like, I don't want to be here.
He's just full
James
of shit.
Jones is probably completely upfront with these guys. Like, hey, man, like, I love you. I want you to be a part of this team. But if we have a chance to get Kevin Durant, like, come on, dude, it's Kevin Durant.
Yeah, exactly. And he's the only guy that can really ever handle, I feel like, a situation like a DA where he's a number one pick and you never paid him until the last second,
Yeah.
The way to handle that and keep your franchise intact and still looking for a championship next year. So he must be upfront. Like he was a player, right? So he understands. He's not a bullshitter like McDonough probably was.
Yes.
He's like, no, you're all good, man. We're going to get people here. We're going to do this, and that.
And then just trade him.
We hated Bledsoe, but you never know what this guy went through with the Suns, right? You can't really hate anybody now. Maybe the Morris twins still.
Yeah.
But other than that, maybe everybody else just give them a break.
Yeah, I agree. What about 2K?
So 2K, you going to buy it with him on the cover? Mr. Big Dick Book himself?
I'd like to, but the challenge is, like, I don't play video games anymore, man.
Yeah, me neither. That sucks, doesn't it?
Well, I think what happened essentially was, during the pandemic, obviously, furloughed from work, I played a ton of video games, but that's also when you and I really started grinding at this podcast. At that point, we had already been grinding. We got picked up by Bright Side of the Sun at that point, and we really started dedicating all of our extra time to this pod and just making sure we're putting out quality content for our Jamsters. And kind of ever since that point, like, rather than coming home and like playing a video game, I'll come home and I'll write an article for Brightside, or we'll do a podcast, or we'll have a post-game podcast. So it's like, I just don't play video games as much as I did anymore, which is like none. I would love to, but like, I have a PS4. I don't even have a PS5. And you got to buy it with a PS5.
And there's a big lawsuit now with that PS5. They just a lot of issues with it. Yeah, they didn't put it together the right way. I guess they're explaining it. So
should have went Xbox.
Yeah, it's strange because I want to play, but then every time I think about doing something, you're right. It's like I want to just do something for the pod when I have the energy, right? When you just want to sit down and like maybe do something fun. It's like, no, I kind of want to, do something for the pod, or like you said, you write your articles. So it's like we're grown-ups now, I guess. Is that what we're saying?
Mike Adamo in the chat, he's like, you guys are adults now. I guess that's what that is.
But I still believe in adults playing video games. I do too. I don't know. There's something about it where I just don't 100%. Care anymore. I never thought I would get to this point. I hate it.
it's pointless. Whereas this is productive, and I enjoy doing this. I get more joy out of doing this. I mean, like, man, I simmed like 3 years ahead, and guess who I got with the number 1 overall pick? You know, like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
traded to get KD on my team.
The worst, you brought up Sim. You said Sim. The Sims, I used to play the Sims, and I used to have a great life on the Sims where I would like write books, sell a lot of books, and like, get a well-paying job, marry
Great
someone
life.
beautiful. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Why don't I just do that in real life?
In real
Like,
life.
why can't I just do that? That was depressing wake-up call. So that was about a month ago. I stopped playing that. So
you've grown up. You grow up so fast. So fast. So well, anyways, last thing I want to talk about on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast is the Arizona Sports Mount Rushmore. So just an interesting conversation. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this as well as the Jamsters' thoughts on this. I was having a conversation with one of my friends the other day, and he was texting me. He's like, well, the Arizona Sports Mount Rushmore, and there's 4 faces on the Mount Rushmore, right? And everybody kind of puts together this kind of understanding of who the greatest or whatever their criteria is. But for Arizona Sports, he was asking from the Phoenix Suns, who would the representative be? He's like, it's, Larry Fitzgerald's got to be there. Diana Taurasi's got to be there. Randy Johnson most likely is the representative for the Diamondbacks. Who is it for the Suns? And, for me, my instant thought is Barkley. And then he's like, well, but Steve Nash, like Steve Nash, more well-rounded player, won 2 MVPs, why not him? And then he said, he saw this, and this all stemmed from like a Suns Facebook discussion thread. So, that can get really dumb really quick. And some people were saying, hey, it's got to be Pat Tillman. And, my buddy was like, well, Pat Tillman, as great as he was, like he had kind of an average, if not below average career with the Arizona Cardinals before he left and died for his country. So I guess the first question, Matthew, is what criteria should we go by as we utilize this thought process of the Arizona Sports Mount Rushmore? And then we can make a decision on who it should be. And sorry, Fabio, it's definitely not Abdel Nader. He says Abdel Nader, obviously.
Yeah, so. This isn't Monty's Mount Rushmore.
Exactly, so. Monty's Mount Rushmore. Elia Kobo, Abdel Nader.
I think it's the player that did the most for the franchise, right? Long term.
But is it for the franchise or for the state of Arizona? Like that's the other question.
when you're doing it for the franchise, it helps. It goes hand in hand, right? I think you're helping this team and it helps Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix grows. I mean, the games sell out. The atmosphere is way better. You're talking to people next to you about the Suns. People are wearing Sun stuff. You know what I mean? It seems like a happier time in the Valley. So I would say just, if they're helping the franchise out long term and how long they can do it for, right? I mean, I would say, if I'll just get my guy out there, Booker, I think I would just put him in there right now for what he's done to this franchise. I know Nash, what he did, and Barkley, but this, Booker's going to be Sun for forever. So I'm just going to say it's going to be Booker.
I knew you'd go Booker. It's like so easy. It's like bump set spike.
Yeah.
Like Booker and KD's coming here on Tuesday.
It's insane. Like, he brought everyone here to play. He got this franchise turnaround. He got the coaches. Monty came in here, but Monty wanted to be here because of Book. Chris Paul wanted to be here because of Book. Jay did. Maybe we can put James Jones on there. Who knows? But I'm just going to say it's going to be Book because he stayed here and he made sure that we get the pieces around him to help them win. For long term too. It's not over.
And I agree with you that Booker will be the one. But he's not yet, in my opinion. He's just not there yet. Because when you have Barkley, who won an MVP, and Nash, who won 2 MVPs, and their impact individually on the Valley as well. Because the Barkley argument to me is that changed this franchise, the trajectory of this franchise forever. They were a team that was always kind of, they were good. They had Tom Chambers and Dan Marley and Kevin Johnson, and they were competitive and they were winning 50-plus games. But they didn't have that signature guy who, if you're showing the NBA on NBC highlights that, dun, 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 they're showing like, it's like Jordan and, it's like, and, they weren't showing like Tom Chambers making a layup, but when Barkley came to this town, the city of Phoenix was ripe for expansion. It happened right when they changed the arena, right when they changed the jerseys. Everything, it was like this perfect pop culture almost moment in the early 90s that changed the face of this franchise. So now, granted, he was only here for 4 years. So it's really hard to say he is on that Mount Rushmore because you have to take into some different like Low Sun says, he goes longevity and career in AZ. He won an MVP here, but he was only here for 4 years. Whereas Steve Nash, he won 2 MVPs. He played, I think, 10 seasons with the Phoenix Suns, and he helped revitalize and introduce an entire new fan base to this franchise, and assisted in changing the way that the NBA was ultimately played forever. The fast-paced, frenetic Phoenix Suns, 7 seconds or less. So, I mean, I can see arguments for both. And again, I agree. Booker has already been to more finals than Nash ever has been. And he's done everything the right way. He is our favorite son. He is the chosen son. And at the end of the day, he will be the one. But I don't think that he's there yet. I just think that we have to have the ability to step away from his career a couple years and then compare it against the contributions of Nash and Barkley before we go, okay, boom, it's Devin Booker. And I might be wrong, but again, that's just my thoughts and point of view on this exercise.
Yeah, so I mean, if they gets a championship next year in the next 3 years, then he will be the guy. That's what you're saying, though. As long as he gets, it makes sense. It's different because I feel like Barkley came here, he tried his best, right? But I think the mindset of Booker too, he just has it. I mean, everyone that meets him knows that he has it. He needs to have it. I just think to get to the level that he wants to be at in the NBA, he's getting there. I mean, finishing 5th in MVP. Now, when we talk about MVP, it's like, does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, if you were to win MVP and then we still lost in Game 7, none of it fucking matters, right? So I don't know. I gotta.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I tried to cover you up as much as I could.
I was trying to hit the mute button and it was like going back and forth.
Well, fair enough. Right. And again, it's a conversation that I think it's an interesting one because again, it all comes down to what your definition of the Mount Rushmore qualifications are. I think Larry's easily on it because not only longevity, not only he's been a part of some of the greatest moments in the history of the franchise, but who he is and what he's meant to Arizona. He spent his entire career here. Obviously, Taurasi's on it because she's just straight up the GOAT. She's the best that's ever done it in the WNBA. And Randy Johnson, so I mean, he won 4 consecutive Cy Youngs. The guy was a beast, and he won a championship with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he pitched in 4 games in that World Series, and they won all 4 of those games. So again, the Phoenix Suns one is a little bit. There's more of a debate I feel on the Phoenix Suns side than any other of the sports because of the lack of success of the franchise, the success of the franchise, but lack of finishing it off. So.
Yeah, and it sucks because a lot of us always talk about like Nathaniel Darris says Al McCoy easily, which is always like the first response from anybody. It's always Al McCoy. It's like
always Al.
It's cool, but it's like, damn, could we just have that player? And it has to be Booker because of that reason. Because he's
and again, like
the Phoenix Sun.
If you are from like Scotts Bluff, Nebraska, and somebody goes, all right, here's the Mount Rushmore of Arizona. Larry Fitzgerald, Diana Taurasi, Randy Johnson, Al McCoy. You'd go, who the fuck is Al McCoy?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, like he is valuable to us and a national treasure to us, but like no one in Scottsbluff, Nebraska knows who he is. Matthew, before we get out of here, watching anything new?
Yeah, actually, I am rewatching Breaking Bad because I am almost
good.
So Better Call Saul is almost over. I think episode 4 comes out this week, so I'm just watching Breaking Bad, and I forget how fucking good it is. I said Better Call Saul is better, but now I'm just like, dude, I don't know, because Breaking Bad, I'm on the 2nd season, and I'm way into it, and I just forget how it's the characters themselves. They do get annoying at times, but other than that, it's a perfect 10.
Everything's great about Breaking Bad except the Fly episode. It's a dumb episode.
Well, at least you know now. Just kind of fast forward it.
Yeah, just skip that one.
Yeah.
I found myself watching something today that I think that you would absolutely love. Have you heard of ESPN's docuseries they're doing right now called The Captain?
Yeah. I was actually gonna wait till it's all done and watch it.
Oh man, it's good.
Is it good?
I don't even like Derek or the Yankees.
It's not ESPN Plus though, right?
It's on ESPN Plus, but they're showing it on ESPN as well. Like on Thursday, they're releasing episodes 5 and 6. But I was watching it today, and I went through episodes 1 through 4. They're each an hour long, and it just reminded me of when I really loved baseball. That time frame. Like I hated the Yankee regime in the late 90s, but I loved baseball. And then it goes into 2001 when the Diamondbacks defeated them, and the 2002 team and the 3 and 4, like 2003 and 4 with the whole Yankees. 2003, it's Aaron fucking Boone hitting the home run, and then 2004,
Yeah.
where the greatest comeback of all time. It's like, God, baseball used to be so much fun. Did I grow up and stop playing video games and stop giving a shit about baseball? Is like that the sign of being a grow up? Because that's grown up.
No,
That's what
because
happened.
you're supposed to carry the baseball tradition until your late 90s. That's when you're then
Yeah,
maybe
it
when
ain't
you're
happening.
dead. When you're dead, then you can obviously stop liking it. But you know what? It's probably just an off year for you with baseball. I think it'll come back around.
It's been an off couple years for me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. But watching the Derek Jeter documentary, The
I'll have to watch
Captain,
it.
on ESPN was really entertaining. And I found myself watching baseball tonight for the first time, I think, all season. It's like the Giants and the Cubs, and I was like watching. I'm like, baseball, huh?
It's so relaxing, isn't it? Like it's
I fell asleep like 3 times.
Yeah, coming off of like a season in the NBA where the playoffs were just a shit show. Like it was so stressful. You sit down and watch baseball, like, oh, I kind of miss this. This is nice.
And I need to enjoy it because once the playoffs come around, like I will definitely be engaged in the playoffs. I always am, and that's just stressful baseball.
Yankees will fucking lose like always. I can already see it's the same trend every year. I can already see it happening. Here come the Red Sox, the right time, like always now.
Always. Well, again, thank you for joining me, Matthew, and thank you, Jamsters, for joining us live here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you're watching this later or listening to this later, we thank you as well. We'll be back live again next Sunday, 8 p.m., as we discuss other goings-ons with the Phoenix Suns. Of course, unless they trade for KD between now and then we will go live wherever we are, however we are, whenever we are. But until then, please subscribe, rate, and review. Hit that thumbs up button if you're here on YouTube. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. Leave us a review. We'll read it right here on the pod. If you're on Spotify, click 5 stars as well. Until next week, everyone, have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you in a week.
Yeah, continue to vote too. Bracket of 64 and go home and love your family.
Love your family, please.